Ladies and gentlemen, my first guest tonight is an author and brilliant legal mind who made history as the first Latina justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Please welcome to the Ed Sullivan, Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Thank you for being here. Yes.
Oh. My friend,
Yes.
I was really heartbroken to learn that your job doesn't come with lifetime tenure like mine does.
Well, are there any openings in your work? Because I'm looking for a gig in June.
All right.
I'm so glad you're here. I really enjoy talking to you. Sometimes the universe conspires to bring us the perfect guest at the perfect moment, and you are that perfect guest tonight. We'll get to that in a minute.
All right.
You see any of the monologue?
I did.
Okay.
All right.
You
Now,
don't have to issue an opinion from the bench right now. Lots to talk about. First, I want to talk about you've issued another beautiful book inspired by your late mother. It's called Just Shine. One of the things that I understand from the story is that you say that she says you don't know what's going on with somebody else. You maybe disagree with them.
You have to ask them.
Yeah. Does that come in handy at your job?
Oh, a lot. But she showed me something else, which is you can't really judge people by their opinions because you may differ in them. You may not like what people do. One of my favorite stories, she had a friend who talked nonstop. How many of you have those kinds of friends? I bet a lot of you, okay? They walk in, they never stop talking. My brother and I would scurry out of the room as fast as we could. My brother would probably go out to play basketball. I would go hide in my room and read. My mother would sit there and just listen. And one day after this woman had left, I looked at her and said, "How do you have that patience?" And she said, "Sonia, it can be frustrating at moments, but I always remember that she really has such a wonderful heart. When I've been sick, she comes over and she's the first one to bring me food. If I'm stuck not having a ride somewhere, she didn't drive at the time, I call her up and she offers before I say anything. Not everybody does that. She taught me to look for the best in people. That was the lesson that moment gave me. And it's what I look for in my colleagues. You know, I don't agree with them much. At least not with the majority. And they can be really frustrating. And there are moments when I want to scurry out of the room. But I don't. And what I look for to maintain our collegiality is the good in them. Because my mother was right, there's good in almost everyone. I say almost everyone because I was a prosecutor, and there are some evil people.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that might frustrate you at work. Let's talk about the shadow docket. Let's talk about the shadow docket, the emergency docket that requires no written opinion or justification for the ruling. First of all, huh? And second, what? How does that work? Why does that even exist?
Well, let's start with your working premise. There is nothing that requires us to issue an opinion at all.
You can just say, this is the decision,
And
we're not going to explain ourselves.
Exactly. But that's of any court.
Right.
All right? What has created the expectation of a writing is tradition. And it's something more powerful than that, which is that people will respect the court only if they understand why we're ruling. You know, we don't have the power of the purse, so we can't threaten people with money. We don't have an army, so we can't use force. What do we have? the power of persuasion. And so we write in the hopes of convincing all of you, the public, that there's a reason for why we're ruling the way we are. And if our reasons don't withstand the test of time, then people are going to no longer respect the court.
Or if there's no rationale given. If you give a compelling rationale, and I understand that, and then my argument doesn't hold up in front of it, if you don't do that at all, it's just ruling by fiat, it feels like.
Yes and no, because there's where you have to understand what the emergency docket is.
I don't have to because I'm not a lawyer.
Right, that's true. That's true. Then I'll try to explain it.
Go ahead, yes.
As you know, I love teaching, so it's okay. The emergency docket is a motion by a party that's out of the ordinary course of litigation. Okay. The ordinary course of litigation is you go to the district court, the trial level, you win or lose. You don't like what happened, you appeal to the Court of Appeals. Once that case is finished and the Court of Appeal rules finally on the case, then you can appeal to the Supreme Court and say, will you hear this case? Those guys below got it wrong, or one of them got it wrong, whatever. That's the normal course of litigation. An emergency docket issue arises because that normal process is being truncated at some point in the process. And usually in the emergency docket, it's at the very beginning of cases. It's at the very start of the case. And so the question becomes, do we arrest something? Do we stop something that's happening at that moment or not? Now, most of the time when we do that, it doesn't mean the case has ended. The case is going to continue when it goes back down below. And it is possible when it goes down below that more evidence, different evidence, better arguments are raised, and the case will come out exactly the same way or in a different way, but the case will still go on, and at the end of the case, you'll come back to the court. So the emergency docket is just sort of a way station in that process. It's not the final end of the case. Something can change. Now, practically, some of our rulings do end up having permanent consequences, but not in terms of the end of the case. That doesn't happen until more has happened below. That's why an emergency ruling that's unexplained is not going to control anything but that moment until the case ends.
So people would not refer to emergency ruling as precedent?
Well, it's precedent to the extent that there is reasoning.
But if no reasoning is given?
Then it doesn't control the case.
Is there a reason why someone might want to not issue a rationale so that in the future, people can't cite it as precedent?
Well,
For instance, another president who they don't agree with brings the exact same kind of case, citing precedent on a shadow docket decision with no rationale. They could say, no, that's not what we meant at all. What did you mean? I'm not going to tell you. Why don't you guess?
Well, generally, that doesn't quite happen that way. But if the circumstances are identical in the emergency posture, then it controls.
We have to take a quick break. We're right back with more Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, everybody.